Hello, this is Angelo, and this is the 11th Finish Stronger Masterclass. Wow, we are on the last leg, and I really hope that you are still with me, and I know how challenging it can be. So, today's subject is a very powerful one because it is a distinction that we have to make, and it is not clear in the beginning, and we truly have to choose between what we call surviving and thriving. And you will see now why our previous success is such a challenge to grow from where we are to where we want to go. Before we begin, I want to thank you once again for being here. As I said before, I know how challenging it can be. This 100-day Finish Stronger Challenge, I know the attention span is so narrow these days, and people jump from one activity to the other regardless of the fact that it has nothing to do with what they truly want to achieve. Once again, I want to congratulate you also for being here, and you should pat your back every once in a while to remind yourself that you're on the right path, you're on the right track, you're persisting against your limiting beliefs, against the momentum of your previous no longer serving habits, and you're here on your path to growth, on your path to your super self and your super life. Of course, I want to remind you that it is a great idea to switch off your phone, all your notifications, close any other tab, any other window that you have on your tablet or PC that you are watching this webinar from. And for the next 30 to 45 minutes max, let's just say that in this world, it is just you and me and the things we will be discussing here. You're more than welcome to keep notes, but always remember that you will be having the replay at hand. So now all you have to do, if you want, is to invest all your attention, 100% of your attention on what we will be discussing here. Last but not least, I want to remind you that we have crossed the point of no return. From now on, in our consciousness, there is only one outcome: to land safely and happily at our destination, to achieve our goal. So, the Finish Stronger Challenge journey continues. Last week, we talked about how you will see the invisible. And if you haven't watched last week's masterclass, you definitely want to do so, simply because, you know what? It is great to be able to do the impossible. It is great to feel that you have unleashed that level of inner power. This week, we will see why previous success virtually inevitably leads to failure, and how to thrive from now on. How do you feel? The question that I ask you on every single masterclass, and the question that you always want to be asking yourself every single day, and actually many times during the day, because you know what? The more energy the better you feel, the more energy you have. And to go from point A to point B, to go from where you are to any goal, you need energy. So the greater the goal that you have, the greater the amounts of energy that you need to unleash are. And how do you do that? By feeling better, by elevating your emotional state before you do anything else. Next, let's talk about some greatest hits. It was a challenge for me to go back so many decades to the age of 1984, and I remember myself, going over all these greatest hits cassette tapes that were available back then. And it was a great idea because you could find, the best songs from the best singers and the best groups in one tape. And of course, there was nothing new. So all you did basically was go over the greatest successes of that year or the year before, right? So right now, we want to do the same with your life. Let's take a moment right now and start creating like a mental sum. Like, imagine yourself right now that you are struck with a lightning of all your successes in 1 second. And you feel actually all your successes, everything that you have achieved, regardless of how small it is, at the same very second, right now, boom. And you feel that energy. You feel all these amazing successes. And you know what? Most probably, these successes are the reason you're struggling to go to the next level. And why is that? We will see in a moment. But what matters here is that the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set that got us here may not necessarily take us to the next level. So, in order to illustrate this, and I've told you many times before that it is a great idea to demonstrate something by using a visual illustration of your concept, let's say. So one of them that I thought of, and it is a great fit to what I want to talk to you about today, is the secret of the food truck. And I remember myself back to the days that I was going out, like almost every night. And at some point, like during the first AM hours, me and my friends would end up in one of the food trucks to have a sandwich, after all this alcohol. And what happened though was that as we were eating that sandwich, many times we had the discussion, wow, this looks like a great business to have, like this guy must be making a lot of money. So we were thinking about it. Why not have a food truck? So sometime further down on my journey of life, I actually learned about this food truck business because some friend of mine did actually got one. But you know what? They were like the business people of the food truck. They were not working on the food truck. It was thought of an investment, let's say. And they realized that in order to make money with a food truck, you could make like really good money as most people would perceive it, but you would actually have to work like 2 shifts, right? And you have to be there. And this is why all this money will be coming in your pocket. The moment that you decide to have like a couple of assistants, this is the moment that you tend to make less or even lose money. Now, because now, not only you have to pay for these assistants, but also might have some kind of leakage, let's say, right? So this is the point, if you had a food truck business, that you would think, you know what? Now that I only have one food truck with assistants, now it is more like a business. So I should be having like 3 food trucks. So in total, they make some sense financially for me. Or even better, it would be like a good idea, a good time to start considering franchise. I have a great idea. This food truck of mine, it has an edge, let's say. It is something like people find it fancy, find it worthwhile. It is like good value for money or whatever. So why not franchise it? So the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set to operate on your own to make some money, right? One food truck has nothing to do with the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set to have a powerful, effective, efficient, valuable, profitable, cash flow positive food truck franchise. You see my point now? It was a short discussion, like a couple of minutes time, but I got you on a journey that, like one thing has nothing to do with the other. Yes, it is the same product, let's say, for the end user, but as in terms of like business-wise, in terms of the business model, they are, like miles away from each other. Let's see another example. The secret of dieting. So you practice, like many diets, and at some point you find, like the really, the one that fits, the really powerful one, and you manage to lose 10 pounds in 1 month, and you consider that a success for you. But at the same time, you have like a secret desire to run in the Olympics. And you know that a part of this success story would be, of course, your nutrition. And you realize, of course, that even though this diet was successful and it helped you achieve the goal of losing 10 pounds in 1 month, it has nothing to do with a diet that you need in order to be able to run for the Olympics. It's a whole new ball game, as you would say. So maybe now you consider having like a nutrition coach, and you go through all these different modalities to take your nutrition to a whole new level, because now it's a matter of finding way more energy and becoming leaner and leaner, and making sure that like your fat percentage is no more than a few points, and all these things, everything that would be part of an Olympian's nutrition. Again, we're talking about two diets, but since these goals are so far apart, the attitude, the mindset, the skill set, and the tool set, again, they're so far apart. Finally, let us see another example. The secret of the secret. Let us see some details on why this secret managed to be on our hands, to be part of our lives in the first place. And I don't know if you know this, maybe you've read it, maybe you've watched the movie. It has become, like really popular. This is why I'm so easily conveying this to you. I know how popular The Secret has become, but not many know that The Secret has actually sold more than 35 million copies. Even less know that the author of The Secret is Rhonda Byrne. And even less know that Rhonda Byrne was so in the flow after creating the documentary of The Secret that she wrote the book in 2.5 weeks. In less than 3 weeks, she wrote this amazing book that sold already more than 35 million copies. And when I say amazing, I'm talking about the success and the impact. You may like the book or not. It's not about liking the book, okay? It's not one of my favorite books, but I am completely aware of its attitude, how it is positioned, and why it is so successful in terms of affecting, influencing people's minds, and like putting in the seeds of, what? You are a point of consciousness and you're capable of so much more. But let us not digress. Let us remind ourselves, as we chunk down to this example, what is going on here? We are talking about writing a book of 35 million copies in less than 3 weeks, right? What about this? Rhonda Byrne, as she was in the flow writing this book, she was more than $2 million in debt. Can you be in the flow with $2 million in debt? Apparently you can, right? Evidently you can. It has happened. It's not like an idea, it's not a concept. It has happened. So, under like what we would call like severe circumstances, it is possible to be in the flow and achieve amazing success. But what about this? Rhonda Byrne did actually tell her accountant, you know what? You do whatever it takes, do whatever you have to keep my company active, because I'm preparing something that will change the world. So I know I am $2 million is dead. I know that my mortgage is, like stretched to the impossible, and everything, like is completely depleted in terms of, like financial resources. But I want you to do whatever it takes to keep this company active, because I am about to change the world. And the last note is that while Rhonda Byrne was saying this to her accountant, while Rhonda Byrne was in the flow doing, like all this writing, she had already sold like 0 copies. Everything was still a concept, and she was entirely relying on her inner power. So as we've said back in September 12th, in the beginning of this amazing journey together in Masterclass number 1. We live simultaneously in two worlds. And right now, maybe you're focusing more on your outer world than you need in order to take yourself to the next level. And if you are a go-getter and you're after survival, it might be, like you might find some value in it. But if you want to thrive, you rely only on your vision and your heart and what it means to you to turn your vision into a reality. This is where all this power is being unleashed. This is where you achieve so many things against all odds. This is where you do the impossible to what, like how the others perceive it, but to you, it is absolutely normal because there was never a doubt in your mind that you cannot achieve what you want to achieve. So basically, what I'm saying to you is that success leads to failure because every time we find a winning model, we feel comfortable with that winning model. And many times in sports, we say we don't change a winning team. But you know what? When the sports changes, this winning team can no longer be a winning team because everything else has changed. And this is the path of evolution. Everything changes. What worked last year does not work now with, like AI and all these new developments. What worked before COVID does not work now as well. So instead of hugging, like this old model so hard that you cannot change, like you cannot move your mindset an inch, you know what? You want to accept that. You want to accept that your success in survival mode is the reason that you are failing on thrive mode. So now you know why you feel kind of stuck, okay? And you might be, like, you know what? I'm good where I am. But at the same time, you feel that you're incapable of, like taking a leap towards where you really want to be, what you truly believe you deserve. So, first, you will elevate in terms of consciousness. You will elevate your mindset, your skill set, and your tool set, basically your understanding to what is available to you, what is possible in this amazing world. And then you will elevate in terms of your success. So always, consciousness precedes success. No matter how big our vision is, we always have to grow first to the point that it is accessible to us. This is how it works. So let's talk about surviving and thriving because we are about to make a very important decision here. And the difference maker is what? Surviving is basically you're protecting what you have. And I remember that there is a parable in the Bible. I've heard it from Jim Rohn, I think it was. Exactly as Jim Rohn used to say, I'm a complete amateur in the Bible, but I remember this parable about the three guys with the talents, right? The one had one, the other had two, and the last one had five. And the master, he said, I will be away for a whole year or something. Here are the talents. And the one guy, when he came back, he asked, what did you do with them? And the one guy, he said that I had one. So I thought of, like saving it. So now I have one again, master. It's still there. I saved it. I didn't lose it. I didn't spend it. The other person said, I have managed to make the two talents 4. And the last one, the 5 talents 10. So what that parable tells us basically, and what we're here, is that many times we think of we are in what we call survival mode when we are in what we call scarcity mindset. It's not what we want, but we feel that it is best to protect what we have. But before I move on to thriving, I want to have like a very to have it, like a clear distinction in your mind, because protecting does not mean actually protecting. Because let's say you have a steady job, right? With a steady income. Is inflation steady? Are the risks of your environment steady? So if you have like $100,000 in the bank this year and you have $100,000 in the bank next year, it's not the same amount of money. The number looks the same, but it's not because of inflation. So now your purchasing power is lower. Now, 1 year later, your capacities to be, like proactive and to reinvent yourself and all these things are weaker. So if a risk comes your way, like the 2008 financial crisis, you feel powerless to change. You feel powerless if you lose your job to find again a job with the same amount of money. This is how important it is for you to understand that when you feel that you are at the same level and you're, like in a sustainable situation, you're making yourself weaker. I'm not telling you what to do and what not, because as you will see me saying to you in a couple of minutes' time, the decision is absolutely yours. There's no right or wrong. This is your life. But what thriving is, I let go of what I have at the risk of having, like a dip, because I am entering a new learning curve and I might get, like in a situation that feels much worse than what I had. But now, at least, I am growing to the point that I can, at some point in the future, be at a much better state and go after my dreams. Go after what I truly believe I deserve and I'm capable for. This is the game-changing attitude. So, as I promised, there is no right and wrong, but you have to make a decision. What actually might feel wrong is if you stay in the middle. Because if you stay in the middle, what happens, and this is, I believe you will resonate with this right now. If you stick in the middle, if you don't make a decision right now, where do I belong? Am I the person who will protect what I have, or am I the person who will actually go for, like my super self and my super life? So if you stay in the indecisive middle, if you are on the fence for like a long time, what happens is that you still have in your consciousness these big goals, and at the same time, you do nothing about it. So you prolong, you perpetuate this wanting state. And this is what basically is like the demise of the soul, because you feel all the time this bitterness of lack. You're not focusing at your destination. You're not at your destination. You're not focusing on your destination. You're not mentally and emotionally at your destination. You're mentally and emotionally in this indecisive state, and you're not yet clear which is the way to go. This is why, no matter what the decision is, you want to make it as soon and as fast as possible. If you're still inclined to go for your super self and your super life, these are the 5 steps to thrive. Number 1, be entirely and genuinely and extremely grateful for everything that has happened in your life up until now, especially your failures, because your failures were an indication that you were, like kind of sidetracked. And since they were not, like fatal mistakes, and you're still here, you have the opportunity to trim your course and stay focused on where you want to go. Number 2, think super self, think super life, think super apartment, super home, super fancy home, super car, super yacht, whatever it is, super family, super relationship. And when I say super, I'm not talking about, like Instagram life. I'm talking about exactly what you want. It doesn't have to be, I mean, for me, super is not super luxurious, for example. I value my freedom, my family, and my friends way more than luxury. Okay? So always to know what you truly want and where you belong in terms of your destination is very important, because then you know exactly the frequency that drives you the most. And when you focus on that frequency, everything changes, because now you feel that you are completely magnetized by this vision and you're pulled forward instead of feeling yourself that you're pushing, right? So when you have all these Instagram desires, as I like to call them sometimes, you know what? They mean nothing to you, and this is why you're not doing anything to achieve them. This was like an impulse, Oh, wouldn't be nice to have like 20 Rolls Royces in 20 different colors and, like 20 private jets, even though I only need one. Whoa, yeah, that would be great. And then you forgot about that goal a second later. You know what? You know why? Because it means nothing to you. Actually, it means nothing to you. So when we say super, it means like your identity, what you want to unleash from within. Number 3, stop calling it super, no matter how big that goal is. Stop calling it a big goal. This is what you want. So, for example, from my perspective, Elon Musk has a rather big goal. He wants to take himself to Mars and die in Mars, like of age, not while landing or anything. This is what he said at some point, right? Maybe he's changed his mind, I don't know. But the thing is, when you have a goal like this, you don't say, like I have a really big goal. Because when you say big goal, what's the problem there? Do you recognize the problem after 11 masterclasses? If you see, we talked about it, right? In the previous masterclass. You say big goal is because you see yourself small yet. And no small person can achieve a big goal. The David who would like defeat the Goliath has to be like 10 times Goliath within. This is how it happens. And even though, like what you see on the outside says, like David, he has no chance. No. He's like Goliath has no chance because David is 10x Goliath within. This is how it happens. When I got started with my business, I was failing miserably, not because, yes, I was lacking some skills, but basically I am 6'4" or 193 in centimeters. But you know what? I was seeing myself, like this big. This is the difference maker. I didn't have the self-confidence to support my dreams. So I was thinking, like I have this amazing big goal and, I'm so small. Basically, I didn't get that there was no way of achieving my big goal only from my perspective. It is, like the equivalent of wanting to climb Mount Everest, like with on your own with, like no equipment and no training and no whatever, like in the worst period of the year. This is the game changer, to be able to grow above your goal. Number 4, be super. Understand this game-changing thing that first you will grow, first you will see your super self in the mirror, and then your super life before your very eyes. First you will become more, and then you will do more, and then you will have more. Last but not least, enjoy your super life. Enjoy your super home. Enjoy your super car. Enjoy your super yacht. Enjoy your super family. You know what? Because now you deserve it fully, and because you have demonstrated the journey you have become. So now all you have to do is to allow it in your life. That said, in closing, I want to talk to you about one of my biggest mistakes. And this is basically one of the biggest obstacles in thriving also. Because when I got started, especially with my coaching business, I was so in love of being of value to others. I knew I could help almost everyone in the world because I was so passionate on my learning curve. I was so persistent and so patient at the same time to find a solution for my clients that I knew I was very effective, but I wasn't. You know why? Because I stretched this part. I stretched the time zone. And what I did basically is I wanted to give so much that I gave away my most valuable resource, my time. And this is not value. Your time and your effort is not value to me. What you will do in that time could be potentially value to me. Right now, I'm talking to you for half an hour. Maybe to some of you would be, like one of the best half hours you have invested in your personal development. To others, it could be, like yawn, completely irrelevant. All I want is to leave this webinar, go to the next activity of my life. So what matters is to focus on your value rather than your time. So I remember in the beginning, I was coaching some clients and it was a half-hour coaching call. And even though we had made some progress, I said, you know what? My schedule is free. How about stretching this call until we find, the sweet spot and until you feel that you've done your breakthrough, right? And this call could stretch to 2.5 hours long. And at some point, I realized, what am I doing here? If I'm giving myself and my client 2.5 hours to grow, this is exactly how long it will take. Nobody is under pressure in achieving something in the time that we truly have. So this is the game changer. If you want to thrive, you want to be more demanding of the only resource that you have less today than you had yesterday, and you will have less tomorrow than you have today. As I've said many times before, you can lose like $100, lose your wallet or something, and you can find back some money. Okay, you can, find a client out of nowhere that you were not expecting. You can even lose your health and find it back in some cases. That people have come back from what the so-called incurable diseases. If you lose 1 second, you cannot find it back. It's gone forever. So the starting point is to see your time as what? As completely, entirely priceless. This is where you begin the elevation that will take you to the thriving trajectory. So, in October, in complete juxtaposition from the example that I gave you before in the early days of my early coaching days, last month in October, I helped a client get 100x ROAS. And if you don't know what ROAS means, it is return on ad spent, meaning that if you give $1,000, your revenue would be $100,000. Okay, this is the return on investment I provided for one of our clients last month, simply because I can. Simply because after these 15 years in business, personal business development, and digital marketing, I know how to achieve that level of success. And this is not the end. Now, my client knows how to repeat this success story again and again and again. So, the value that I gave to my client is not what happened last month, is what will be happening every time from now on they apply the same strategy in their business, and even more when they optimize this strategy. So, My client got super results and I reserve a super remuneration, right? So what I did, as I said before, is a complete juxtaposition from my early days where I gave away my time as if it was, like completely worthless. And now I'm squeezing in basically as much value in every single second of my business, my career, my life, regardless of how you say it. What matters is elevating value per second, value per minute. This is very vital if you want to thrive. So, as one of my mentors says quite nicely, actually, these results are not typical in any way, shape, or form. And now that my lawyers are basically happy, uh, I can move on to what matters here. Because this was not in any way for me to brag or anything. What I wanted to say to you is you cannot have these results. You cannot have 100x return on ad spend if you don't have this intention. If you're not committed to thrive, you will not find these strategies. A good illustration again, remember how helpful it is to visualize, right? Imagine right now that I'm giving you like a newspaper. I don't know, in Greece, they're still popular, these newspapers where you have, like all these leaflets and pamphlets like within. And let's just say one of them has to do with like women's fashion. So what I would do is like pick it up and throw it away immediately because it means nothing to me, right? I have no interest in women's fashion. But if I see another one that's like sports cars or aviation or anything, like or amazing travel destinations, I will pick it up because it matters to me a lot. So this is the game changer. When something matters to you, you will immediately resonate with what gets you there. In the same way, if you focus on thriving, you will attract, you will resonate with completely different thoughts, actions, people, and everything else involved. If you're focused on, like sticking to what we call the go-getter attitude, then you have a completely different set of consciousness in front of you. Even though we all live in the same world, our consciousness filters only the things that what we call valuable, we call that they matter to us. So the secret passcode to thriving is just one word. This is where it all begins. If you want to be on that thriving trajectory, there is only one word that unlocks all this amazing potential. One word is the game changer. This one word is like still stands between where you are and what it takes to achieve what you want. What it takes for you to finish stronger and at the same time be like have the most powerful foundation for 2024 and on. You know what that word is? Can you guess right now? That word is committed. That's the word. If you are committed, then everything changes. Because as I like to say, when you are committed, the only fixed point in the universe is what? Your destination. Everything else can and will change, right? So when you are committed, everything else changes because it's inevitable. Everything has to fit into your vision because the only fixed point is your vision. The only outcome that you allow is your destination, and then everything has to adapt to it. So, that said, if you want me to be part of your journey in coaching you on how to actually land at your destination in 2024 and on, just hit reply to one of my emails with this word, because I will only work with the committed ones. So just reply and say committed. And I will give you more details and we will go through the journey of actually accepting you in my coaching and mentorship program for 2024. This is the game changer to become committed regardless if we will work together or not. Your homework in closing. Number one, decide whether you will protect what you have or go after your dreams. You have to decide, as we've said before. This decision is liberating. Whichever way you go, you will feel like completely relieved and you will feel that you have more energy of what matters in your life, regardless of what you want to achieve. Number two, seal that decision with your attitude, with your actions. This is not in paper. It's not on paper. This is a contract, a mental and emotional contract with yourself. And if you want to have elevated self-confidence, you want to be truthful to yourself. The moment that you say that you do something and you don't do it, this is the moment where you lose your self-confidence. So what you want to do is reaffirm every single moment, basically, reaffirm that decision with your attitude and your actions. Last but not least, elevate, upgrade your game on our group, because you know what? The more we elevate the energy of the group, especially now that we are on the, really seeing the finish line of Finish Stronger Challenge, the more valuable this elevation of energy becomes for, our collectively for our group. So you want to ask as many questions as possible, leave nothing, unanswered on your journey to success. Number two, you want to share your micro wins. And number three, you want to invite still, now that this energy is elevated, the ones that feel that this group would be of value to them because they're struggling right now in their lives or because they are in a turning point and they need some kind of guidance, some kind of liberation from their challenges. So that said, I want to remind you once again that you deserve everything you want and we all deserve your best self. So I will leave you with this question. Are you committed? Yes or no? There are no gray zones here. Yes or no? The answer, you know the answer, and I hope it is the right one because you know what? Your dreams are waiting. Your super self is waiting around the corner, actually. It's so close when you answer truthfully this question right. So I will see you next week with masterclass number 12 and within the week on our Facebook group. Ciao, ciao.